It's 6:30 now. We would like to begin our regular meeting of, and call this meeting to order. Just wanted to welcome you to our board meeting this evening, and thank you for attending, and thank you for your interest in Pasco schools. I also want to remind you that sometimes we do go through things a little bit quickly in this meeting, but we've had ample time to go over the issues, and many times we've seen these issues several times, and so we've been able to go over these. This meeting is being recorded for broadcast on PSC TV and on Charter Cable Channel 191, and it can also be accessed on YouTube. So our student representatives are doing the flag salute tonight, so we're going to turn the time over to them.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christensen? Excused. Dr. Richardson?
Present.
Ms. Lankin?
Present.
Ms. Lace?
Present.
Mr. Langman?
He's excused too. He is sick with the flu tonight, so our thoughts are with him.
Mr. Mendoza?
Present.
Mrs. Phillips?
Present.
Mr. Neff?
He's excused. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a special recognition, and we are going to turn the time over to Ms. Whitney and Mr. Shane Ettinger.
So thank you, Vice President Phillips. I would like to take this extraordinary honor tonight to acknowledge our very own Glenda Cloud. If she could come up here and join me. Tonight is Glenda's last board meeting with us as she retires and goes off to the exciting next phase in her journey. And we would like to present her with this amazing framed piece of art that has a hand-drawn picture of each of our schools. So while we'll be in her heart, we hope that she holds each of our buildings in hers. And on the back is special sentiments that are written from those of us who have worked closely with Glenda over the years. So again, it's just my extraordinary honor to honor Glenda in this way, and even more of an honor to have worked with you, Glenda, and we wish you the very, very best. Here, Glenda, I think you need a photo. It's a photo opera. Oh. We can take this. Is Shane there?
Sure, why not?
Okay, now without you. No.
Shane, you and I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Whitney. Board Vice President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board, we're also here tonight to bid farewell to our 2016 and 2017 student board representatives, Misty Lace, Jesus Mendoza, and Evan Neff. They're a group of remarkable young students who have definitely made an impact on the Pasco School District. Misty Lace and her family moved to Pasco from El Cajon, California, in May of 2015, and she has spent the last 2 years at Pasco High School, where she was a member of the National Honor Society, was also actively involved with Key Club, the Recycle Club, and leadership. Misty was a member of the Dean's List, and she will attend WSU Tri-Cities in the fall. She earned a handful of scholarships that will help her cover tuition costs as she pursues a degree in psychology and would eventually like to become a psychiatrist. Jesus Mendoza is a lifelong Pasco resident. He attended Frost, Whittier, and Robinson Elementary Schools, Ochoa and McLaughlin Middle Schools, and spent time at Pasco High School before moving to New Horizons High School, where he graduated this spring. Jesus has served as ASB president at New Horizons. He was also named to the Honor Roll and has received awards from the Hispanic Academic Achievers Program. This spring, he received the Pasco Kiwanis Scholastic Citizenship Achievement Award. Jesus has plans to attend classes at Columbia Basin College. Before that, though, he plans to spend some time serving his country in the Marine Corps Reserves. Evan Neff couldn't be with us tonight because he's already started his next adventure. He's serving as a missionary in Trinidad for the next 2 years. Evan attended Markham Elementary, McLaughlin Middle School, and Chiawana High School, where he was one of 7 valedictorians this year. He was a member of the National Honor Society and Chiawana's tennis team. After Evan completes his mission trip, he'll attend Brigham Young University. Ultimately, he has aspirations to become a cardiologist or an attorney. It's always fun to watch our student board representatives transform from uncertain and maybe even shy young high school seniors to confident high school graduates who are ready to take on the world. This year was no exception. We do have some tokens of appreciation for you. We also want to congratulate you on your graduation and best of luck in all of the adventures that await you.
We also have a token of appreciation from the board as well. You can be in the picture. I don't mind. Would any of the other board members like to say anything? Or?
Go ahead, Oprah.
I'm going to look at my card first because I like doing that.
We appreciate the work of our student representatives. They offer a really unique, not unique, a really necessary piece to what we do as they represent so many students and help influence decisions based on what our students' needs are directly from the students' mouths. We're going to miss these guys.
When did you guys take all these pictures? Like, my goodness. Thank you, I appreciate it so much.
So we got picture frames, or a frame with pictures.
This was the first time I signed it too, huh? That one paper? Yeah.
Oh, these are nice.
Are we gonna ship something to Evan
Yes.
in Trinidad? Is it gonna get to him?
Oh, Evan's gift?
Yeah.
We'll make sure Evan gets it.
I actually missed the guy. I really like it.
Probably pick some of it up when he gets home from his home.
It doesn't even feel like the last board meeting, to be honest. That's crazy.
It doesn't.
Well, I expect you both will help me with Superintendent Advisory Council, so this isn't this is your last board meeting as a student board rep, but certainly not your last interaction with Pasco School District.
Do I have permission to lead it?
We'll talk about it.
Okay, next is approval of the minutes from the meeting of June 13th, 2017. Is there any discussion?
Madam Vice President, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2017.
Second?
So there's a motion and second to approve the meeting of June 13th, 2017. Is there all of those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. This is so weird with only 3 board members. Feels weird. So I will turn it over to Ms. Whitney for an agenda review.
I do need to call the board's attention to item number 9 tonight. We did reorder the presentations so that mine were at the end, and we also moved curriculum adoption recommendation for advanced placement sciences. It was on the agenda as an action item. It needed to be moved to reports. So that's why it's indicated in red.
So we'd like to turn the time over right now to audience comments and try to keep your comments somewhat brief for 2 minutes, and we will hold up cards to let you know when you're getting close. So.
Can't see it, okay. Hi, my name is John Weisenfeld. I'm a science teacher, and I'm wearing Eclipse glasses right now. So when I think about graduation and graduates, their future's so bright. If you wear these shades, you cannot see anything except the sun, just an orange circle. So in a recent email to staff, I reminded them that August 21st is an eclipse, and we are so close to that part of the Earth where we can see the sun completely blocked out. These are pretty, well, these are science teacher versions, so pretty high class, but you can get fairly simple eclipse glasses. And those of us who are old enough to remember the '79 eclipse, and I think I did a science report as a 4th grader or something for that eclipse. I didn't see it, but you can make special kind of pinhole cameras and things, so I think people remember that. But anyway, please, if you want to know where I'll be somewhere on the 395 south of Pendleton watching totality, which is the complete blockage of the sun by the Earth. I think it's such a great illustration of potential and future, and sometimes it's dark for a while, but it comes bright again. So I wanted to say to Misty, congratulations. You said some nice things about me in a board meeting a while back, and I have always appreciated you and your comments in class, and I think it's so great to teach young people because there's so many options, right? So I wish you luck in anything and everything that you choose to do. All right, let me say one more thing. Since I was on curriculum adoption, I wanted to stand a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was more than a couple meetings ago. What the board did by approving a science curriculum that is mainly online is a quantum leap beyond just books. And so I applaud you for that. It's a challenge, though. We have to get computers and things in the classroom so that students can use them, and Mark Garrett and his team are working hard on that. But I am excited about the opportunity to get relevant and current content that is independent of some publishing cycle by a big publisher. So then, without being, I don't want to spoil. Don't want to give a spoiler alert for this curriculum adoption for advanced placement, but I'm really excited about advanced placement physics. I'm a physics teacher. It has an online component that I think is world class that students will be using in other classes potentially if they go to college. It has the chance to diagnose students' misunderstandings and help them in real time when they're doing their homework at night, usually before midnight, and nobody's around to help. But that computer can be there to help them, which I would like to be, but I can't always be, online all the time. So anyway, I'm super excited about curriculum adoption. I'm super excited that it's almost over, and I appreciate all the hard work that people have done. But I especially acknowledge the board's forward thinking in getting something that has more online or more easily updatable content. So I appreciate that, and I think our students will benefit. So remember Eclipse, August 21st, and thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for your comments, and we will move now to communications, and we'll start with Dr. Richardson.
Thank you. We recently had a community forum, and I had the chance to visit with one of the attendees there, and she brought up some great suggestions. And one thing that she mentioned, that as a senior citizen, she'd love to see us involve the senior citizens of our community more in the schools, and I thought that was a great idea. Whether it be helping with reading or other things, getting them into our schools, I thought that was a great suggestion, so look forward to seeing that move forward. I appreciate what Mr. Weisenfeld said about some of these computer-based programs being able to adapt adapt and analyze students' progress. One thing I'd like to see over the summer is everyone use not only utilize our libraries, and many of our schools are open. There was a posting of that. Many of our school libraries are open over the summer, parts of the summer for kids, but they have access to some of these programs they use. And one that I'm thinking of is a math one, I believe it's called SumDog. And essentially these programs where they can kind of adapt to the student's ability and push them a little bit to progress at their level and pace. I think that's great for us to utilize those. Finally, I just wanted to mention real briefly about our student representatives. I'm a very big fan of that, and they did a great job this year. And I just wanted to share one thing briefly about each of them. Misty was a couple months ago. She showed up and she was having some sort of neck problem, and I remember talking to her about that, and I just thought, there's dedication. You know, we, with so many kids looking for the easy way out, and sometimes I'm disappointed by youth. Misty was here, and my thought was, gosh, she could be at home, an easy way out to just be resting and not be at the board meeting, and she was here, and I appreciated her dedication. Jesus was the ASB representative at New Horizons, and I met him before he was a student board representative, and was impressed by his leadership at the school when there was a lot of things happening at New Horizons and a lot of things being brought up in the community. And Jesus was already a student leader at that school and helped move forward some of the things there. And I think can say that he played a role in their movement to a new facility this next year. Finally, Evan, I'm impressed with his time management. He was involved in all kinds of things during the year, not only as valedictorian and on the board, but he also played sports and was quite a good athlete and tennis player. And he's quite musical and was in different groups throughout the year, and I was impressed with his time management. And if you need any evidence of that, within 2 weeks of school getting out, he left on a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and is already there serving. So just so impressed with our students and look forward to getting to know our student representatives next year.
I just wanted to make appreciation for the curriculum folks that worked on getting the curriculum together. It was a huge, huge on-taking for them that they got that together for the new program coming forth that's already in place, getting ready to be shipped to us. And I remember what they did last year. We didn't do it, they did it, when they unpacked all those boxes and getting that out to the teachers. And they've just done a fantastic job and put a lot of hours into it. So I really appreciate all the work that they did. And so the work that our teachers are going to do, putting it into the classrooms for this coming year. So I really appreciate all that work. I know it was a great job that they did, and so the science that's a great program. So and the music program is just great. And I appreciate our students. We'll miss them this next year, so we'll have 3 new ones, and it's always a great pleasure to welcome the students and see how they grow through the year. So I appreciate you. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Well, I want to first of all congratulate the next student representative and Angel also for doing it from New Horizons as well. Like, who said that? I'm going to pass the baton to the other person. I really like that concept. When did you say that, Dr. Richardson?
Let's see, I think it was Abraham that said that. I can't remember. Or maybe Carson. Carson said it about Misty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he said that like around November, and it still kind of stuck with me. And was it November?
Well, okay, so last year we came to the farewell meeting, Evan and I, and so they, the last 3 reps gave their communication, and it was Carson who said that to me. Yeah.
Well, anyways, that was really. It just kind of stuck with me, and I do see it like that as well. You know, you're passing the baton and hope for the best also. And I want to thank everybody as well for accepting me in this position. I actually learned a lot from it, and it was more like a practice. on like speaking and so much learning. When I went to the Olympia, my goodness, I was like, what did I get myself into? You know, I was like, what? This is crazy. Like, I saw all those people and like, at first I didn't really know like what I was doing, but when I got there, it was so crazy to me. Everything was just flying like crazy. But I managed to do it and I stuck with it, and it feels great. You know, it's like I accomplished this in my life as well. And I met so many people that mentored me, and I want to thank you for that as well, and for choosing me in this position. So thank you.
Hello, everyone, for the final time. So I think Jesus and I can agree that the word that we learned the most, not to say but to feel, was thank you. Because this past year, the 3 reps, we've been introduced to a lot of different things. And being a rep, we had the opportunity to see different perspectives, see what goes around our school district, because as students, we're only used to a certain side of everything. And so coming to board meetings and going through to the conferences, we were able to learn a lot and appreciate and learn how hard it is for everything to run. And it's not just the teachers, it goes back way further than that. So we really appreciate it, and no matter how many times we say thank you, and it might seem like just like, oh, they're just saying it, we actually do mean it. And I'm not the best person at expressing my emotions, but I think what we learned from the interview process where we had last week, where we interviewed some candidates for this upcoming school year, so where we were able to pick the 3 reps, I think we all learned that I feel like I'm probably better at helping other people find out what their potential is and helping them move forward and working on better themselves. So I probably am a lot of talk, but I feel like I know, I'm starting to find out who I am, and so I want to help people find out who they are as well. And so, like I said many, many times this year, thank you to all the people who have helped us throughout this year, and congratulate all the people who have done already great things and are moving on. So like Ms. Cloud and Mr. Weisenfeld. I can't see you. Did you leave? He left. Okay, but I want to thank him. Yeah, it was great being in his class, and I'll always remember he was never hesitant to help me when I needed help. And so, yeah, it was a very memorable experience, and I know Evan would have had his long speech to make, but yeah, we all just want to say that this was a journey. It was only a year, but we've made friends. Like, actually, today was the year that the day that last year that I met Evan and we became friends, and I'll never forget him, and I'll never forget this. So thank you.
It's always a bittersweet moment when we say goodbye to our representatives and then the following weeks welcome new ones in. It really can be a life-changing experience for some of these kids. I appreciate Jesus as the first board representative that we've had from New Horizons High School, and what's wonderful is we get to have another board representative from New Horizons High School this year. And she's in the audience. I just see her back there. So are there any other board reps that are? Where are you? Okay. Oh. Okay. I'll be quiet because the kids that didn't get it don't all know yet. So that was tough, really tough decision. I got to be part of those interviews this week and last week. And anyway, and I think we've spent our lives here. I've just figured we've had four board meetings, 3 graduations, 2 days of interviews. It's been a busy month, with the board and all, and it's been really good. It's a fun month to be a part of, as we, as you realize the fruits of the labors of this district. It's fun to acknowledge those things. But we had a wonderful time interviewing these students. There were so many good ones. I found myself saying, oh, make sure you tell Valerie to say this and say this, because you want to bring them all in. And because you know that each of them can add a lot. So I'm really grateful for the Student Advisory Council and for an opportunity for those students to still have a voice and to make a difference in the schools. So that was really wonderful thing to be a part of. And we thank you for all of your support. Some of you have been on many of these committees for the new curriculum, for the bond. We really appreciate the help with the community that so did such a great job bringing in all the information. We appreciate the MGT group, and you know, they personally meet with us as well, and I appreciate that because it answers lots of my questions. You know, after we had our meetings, and really helped us pave the way for this new bond that I think is just going to be powerful for our district. So I really appreciate all the work that you have done for our district and all that you have spent many hours to be a part of that.
So I just briefly want to acknowledge our student board reps as well. I think I mentioned at the last board meeting, in the first year that you spend in any new role, there's things that you anticipate that you're ready for, and there's things that when they come, you're just not ready for. And for me, the overwhelming sense of pride I felt at graduation was one of them, and saying goodbye to you is the other. I just am not ready for them to be gone and leaving us. And so I am just so inspired by both of you and watching you really grow into the person that you're going to be, and I'm proud of you. And absolutely, you have a fan in me. If you ever need me, I'm a phone call away, and whatever support I can offer, you just need to give me a call. And I'm your #1 fan. I'm all in, and I expect that you're going to be hugely successful in whatever it is that you choose to do, because you have the capacity and the potential to do whatever it is that you want to do next. The experience of interviewing the next set of student board reps was absolutely overwhelming. The one thing I know for sure is I'm glad that I never had to interview up against any of them for a job. So while these two and three, Evan's not here with us tonight, are leaving us, we are going to be in good hands with our next set of student reps, and we'll be very excited to introduce you to them at our board meeting on July 25th, when they'll be 25th, when they'll be, no, it's the 27th, 25th, okay, 25th. We've been doing this all, okay, 25th, well, they'll be sworn in. So thank you very much.
Can I just point out that Ms. Whitney said, this is going to be easy, but I think you underestimated how many wonderful students we have.
All right, well, now we are going to hear, now I'm going to get teary, probably our last report from Mrs. Glenda Cloud. So she's going to give us a report on graduation.
So it is my great honor to introduce to you Deputy Superintendent Glenda Cloud, and I will again publicly apologize for scheduling you to present on your very last board meeting.
However, if I had to present, this would be the topic I'd want to present on for my last one. So Vice President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board, there were handshakes, hugs, high fives, tears, and smiles. As we watched our graduates walk into pomp and circumstance, several words came to my mind: courageous, confident, dedicated, caring, joyful, but most of all, excited for the future. As we look at graduation, in addition to the credit requirements that we have at each of our schools, the seniors who are graduating must complete a high school and beyond plan. They also need to pass the content state assessments. This year for the language arts, they needed to pass the Smarter Balance DLA test. In math, they could have passed Math EOC, the end of course, or the geometry end of course, or the Smarter Balanced. And then of course there was the biology EOC. We are awaiting word from the legislature whether they're going to be delinking or delaying any of these assessments as a graduation requirement. 31 students were in the 5th graduating class at Delta. Dr. Rodriguez, who's here tonight, stated that there was a 97% on-time graduation rate for the class of 2017 and can't wait to see what they will accomplish. And I talked to her the other day and she said we have one more graduate who made that. Here you will see the number of students from each of the high schools. You'll remember that those students are enrolled in their home high schools and will receive a diploma from either Chiawana or Pasco High. But here we've noted them as 31 students. Mr. Johnson, who's also here, mentions that the 34 students who graduated from New Horizons represented the last class to attend in the current facility. And there's a lot of joy for next year when they'll be moving into that newly remodeled area. He used the words persistence and resilience to describe them. Similar to Delta, we have students who attend High School Academy through CBC, and they earn their diploma from New Horizons. They may be taking some at the High School Academy and some at New Horizons. And Mr. Mendoza was chosen as a speaker at that High School Academy completion ceremony, and he did an excellent job. Mr. Walbrook, also here tonight, stated that the 430 graduates at Chiawana have left a legacy of scholarship, achievement, and spirit, and they have raised the bar for future graduating classes. Pasco High, Mr. Sital used the words courage, passion, and work ethic to describe the 372 graduates. And he said, we're all looking forward to their futures and the impacts that they will have on our community. As we've seen the number of students who have graduated, now we're going to take a look at the scholarships that were reported. And keep in mind that a lot of the students don't report scholarships they have, so these are the ones we're aware of. And these numbers have been updated since you last saw them. $3.3 million at Chiawana, over $3.8 million at Pasco High, Delta, $567,000, and New Horizons, $4,500. I have got to remember that. So I get so excited about the numbers. For a total of $7.7 million for 340 students. And keep in mind, not every student will come and tell us that they've received a scholarship. And to date, students are still hearing about receiving some scholarships. 860 individuals with unique characteristics graduated. They're ready to step into the world with their special gifts. But behind each student, there are staff, and some of them are here tonight. There are parents, there are families, and there's a community who have supported, mentored, cared, pulled, pushed, and encouraged. I remember one of the speakers in a previous graduation who said, "Your dreams belong to you. You are the only one who can make them happen. There is no expiration date on your dreams," and that has stayed with me for quite some time. So here are three of the graduates who have shared their dreams with us. And in conclusion, I say, thank you to all of the graduates for being a part of this district and sharing your lives with us. You've made an impact on us. And congratulations on your accomplishments. So with that, thank you. And if there's any questions.
Thank you. No, I commend the district on our Reimagining High School. I know we're looking at a lot of ways to help all of our students prepare for their future, and I just look forward to seeing what that beholds. And I know Ms. Claudia had a big part of leading that, and with this goal of not just having graduates, but graduates that we've helped with their career path, whatever that is, whatever it includes, military, university work, whatever their dreams are, that we're helping them accomplish that in addition to just graduating. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. That was a great last report. It is exciting to go out on such a positive note. Our next on the agenda is curriculum adoption and recommendation for advanced placement series. So
I'd like to introduce Ms. Suzanne Hall, who will be presenting to the board tonight on another curriculum adoption.
Good evening, Vice President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Tonight I am presenting the final recommendations from the Science Curriculum Committee. And just as a reminder, the board previously approved the K-5 general science recommendation in May, which was to continue with our current Laser Alliance materials. The regional laser science kits are on a continual cycle of renewal as national science standards are revised. This rollout for the elementary materials will take place over the next 3 years. And the board also approved the adoption of the STEM scope for grades 6 through 12. STEM scope is a comprehensive online curriculum which includes core resources for our general science classes such as physical science, chemistry, biology, and physics. Members of the AP curriculum team are listed here, and I'd like to thank any of them who are in the audience tonight, and a special appreciation to our director, Megan Nelson, who facilitated all of the K-12 science teams. The committee followed each of the required steps for which you're very familiar with right now, and all the recommended resources tonight were selected because they represented the tightest alignment to the College Board standards, as well as alignment to the advanced placement assessments. The other standout qualities of these materials was the presence of the volume of rigorous questioning strategies, the self-assessment tools for students, extensive resources for differentiation and extensions. And the recommendations are as follows. AP Chemistry by Cengage Learning Chemistry, AP Biology, McGraw-Hill Maters Biology. We also have AP Environmental Science by Bedford, Freeman, and Worse Environmental Science for AP. AP Physics, Pearson's Physics, Principles with Applications. Finally, we have Biotechnology, Biorad's Biotechnology, a lab skill course. The AP committees have developed a plan for implementation to include training and course development in August and throughout the next school year. The estimated budget for all of the recommended materials is about $50,000. And again, I'd like to thank the board for your unwavering support for all of our curriculum work. We appreciate your acknowledgement to the staff for their dedication and the time that they've contributed to this endeavor. And we really feel that building this comprehensive and coherent curriculum system over the last 2 years is a testament to the pride and the dedication, determination of our staff that will have a lasting impact on our student success. And we're very proud of the staff, the board for supporting our work, the vision of Superintendent Whitney and getting us started down this direction. And I would entertain any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just curious how many total AP classes are offered at our high schools, roughly? You may not.
In addition to science
Yeah,
classes?
will include all courses.
And John, did he slip out? I can get you that exact number.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that. I know we offer them for English language arts, math, as well as science, some technology coursework, and there are several advanced placement courses in social studies as well.
I appreciate that there has been a focus on this AP work. I think it's so important because so many kids are capable of more than they think they are, and AP is a great venue to show that as these kids gain college credit for while they're still in high school. So I'm excited. It's amazing, all of the facets and corners of curriculum adoption. It's a huge undertaking, and once again, we are in awe of what you've done, and we are so grateful for something that was so desperately needed by our district. So thank you for the hours of work and the time put in, and we just really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we are going to have we're going to focus on our outrageous outcome of reading and then have a bond and facilities planning update, both given by Mrs. Michelle Whitney.
So thank you, Board President, or excuse me, Board President, Board Vice President Phillips and members of the board. It is my honor to be in front of you tonight to present the fourth of 5 presentations focusing on our outrageous outcomes, which are really at the heart of our district core functions, including the way that you govern as a board, the way that we tackle the work of our district strategic improvement plan, and the way that we allocate resources. This presentation is focused on the research rationale and data benchmarks and key initiatives as they apply to the outrageous outcomes specific to 100% of all of our third graders will read on grade level in their language of instruction. What we know is that reading on grade level in third grade has a direct impact on a student's likelihood of graduating from high school. If our destination is graduation and a successful career beyond, then focusing on third grade reading is the right work. In an effort to monitor our progress over time toward this goal, we're tackling the following benchmarks. First, WAKIDS, or the data that we use to track the progress of our littlest learners. A couple of reminders about this data. One, this is the fall of 2016 and only represents those students who took the test in English. We're still working with TS Gold and a variety of stakeholders at OSPI to solve this data reporting issue for us, and we're hopeful to have that rectified by the time I update you in the fall. So just pointing out here that about 37% of our English-speaking students are entering kindergarten with language skills that we would expect of a 5-year-old, and about 48% of our English-speaking students are entering kindergarten with literacy skills that are expected of a 5-year-old. In the spring of 2016, almost 30% of our students met standard in the state reading assessment. This is a required state assessment that's given to all third graders, and the test is administered in English. And this is represents our DRA and EDL data. So DRA is given to students receiving instruction in English, and EDL is an assessment given to students receiving instruction in Spanish, and it's used to identify reading levels, assess accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. So this graph shows you students who were identified as reading on grade level in their language of instruction in grades K through 3 in the spring of 2006. So we've begun the process of digging into this data and data like this to identify what moves the needle for students, and we'll continue this process with a data carousel with principals at our Leadership Academy in August. This slide is one that's familiar to the board. In addition to identifying a foundational instructional experience for all Pasco kids with instructional materials and a curriculum framework, we are also initiating an implementation of explicit instruction of foundational skills in our pre-K and second grade class. So foundational skills are things like alphabet awareness, concepts of print, phonemic awareness, phonics, high-frequency words, and fluency. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we're supporting language acquisition for our students who've not yet had the opportunity to learn English. We're really excited about the work that the district has started around developing a seamless continuum of instruction and intervention, which will result in equitable access to both accelerated opportunities for kids and kids who need extensions of their learning. Our early learning initiatives have really been a highlight for us this year. We've implemented the programs listed on the slide, and I've firsthand seen the enthusiasm from our community partners as we've implemented these, and people have taken advantage of them. We look forward to continue to expand these programs and explore new and additional opportunities with partners. Lastly, we have been and will continue to focus on executing professional development that is responsive and meets the needs of our students, or our students and our teachers, as we continue to move forward with curriculum implementation and refine our pedagogical approaches to delivering it. So I look forward to presenting our final outrageous outcome that's focused on extracurricular engagement, and I will be doing that on July 27th. This presentation will close the loop on our inaugural set of reports or presentations on our outrageous outcomes, and then I plan to be back in front of the board in early fall to begin a round of updates. You can look forward to some highlights from our activities with principals over the summer that will result in narrowing the focus and digging deeper in some of the key data sets to drive decision making. And I really want to thank the board for your leadership in this, what has become system changing work. It's really been an honor for me to implement this work under your direction, and I'm continued to be excited about using it as a foundation to connect dots across our system and really get us to that consistent, efficient, innovative, and proactive approach to educating Pasco students. And it's just been an honor for me, and I truly appreciate it.
Questions?
Thank you. Go back to the slide where it was about 30% the English. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Yes, that one. So this is, you said all third graders take this in English, even our students whom English is not their primary language.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next slide, this one is offered if Spanish is their primary language, they can take it in Spanish.
Correct.
Okay. So, I looked at this slide and was pondering this quite a bit. So in kindergarten, 73% are on or above level, and for second, third grade, we just drop off. And obviously we have to, this is new, we're going to analyze this, and I just couldn't get over those numbers, that what are we doing that, we go from having 73% of our kindergartners are on or above level, and we're just at 50% after that. And so I was just thinking of all kinds of things, and obviously we're going to look at this more. Is a lot of this due to our overcrowding? Is it some of our lack of curriculum in the past? Are we overemphasizing STEM too much and not focusing on just primary reading ability? Do we just have low expectations? Is our summer slide greater than typical, in our area? All of those things are things that just came to mind off the top of my head, but I'd love for us to dig into this and kind of see if we can start moving that bar, because, half of our students not being able to read appropriately at third grade, that's a major concern for me.
Well, I think the data absolutely indicates that we picked the right outcome, the right outrageous outcome. We had a deep conversation about this data also. I think the thing I'm interested in is the 72% representative of some of our pre-K initiatives and kids coming in more prepared? And will we see that become the trend and phase out the 50%? So those are the things we want to dig into. Certainly, I hope that's the direction. But those are, when I talk about digging into certain pieces of data, this will absolutely be one of them to figure out where are we at and how can we make sure that the 72% becomes the norm and even higher than that. So those are great. We had, like I said, a very deep conversation about this data in cabinet this morning as well.
I had the exact question, so I appreciate Dr. Richardson for asking them. Kept going back and forth between those two slides because there is some incongruencies between the two, and it does make sense why there's 53% on our end and only 30% on the state's end. Do you know what the data looks like for kindergarten coming in on grade level in past years? Has it typically been quite a bit lower than that?
I can't speak to that now, and certainly I will be able to in the fall when I'm back in front of you in the fall.
Do you know, I really appreciate the honesty of these numbers. They're not pretty, and I'm looking forward to really setting some really valid goals in where these numbers are going and how much we're going to increase by, because it is really important that we have those goals, and I know that is forthcoming. We are going to focus a lot more on data in the future. And I'm excited for that because numbers don't tell a whole story, but they do give us a great snapshot of part of a story, and we can get the rest of the story from our incredible principals and teachers. So I am looking forward to how this is going to change. I really do believe that curriculum is going to really help. And I know that when you first implement a curriculum, there's a drop and then a raise, and so that's something we need to anticipate. There's a lot of research around that and lots of different things. An implementation process usually initiates a drop before we initiate a raise, but I am looking forward to the future because I think we are going to see some incredible growth in our students because of this joint work. So I appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing these numbers rise dramatically.
Well, I want to quote my teacher friend, Mr. Weisenfeld, who says, "Our future's so bright, we've got to wear shades." Board President, Vice President Phillips, she gets so used to saying it one way. I apologize. So I'm going to move into my second report with permission from you, Ms. Phillips. So since you met as a board with the MGT consultant Joe Clark and the community builders on June 6th, you've spent the last couple weeks analyzing the information you were given, and you've requested follow-up information from staff. Last Tuesday, the board held a retreat to discuss this information and determine a path forward toward a bond election in November. At the retreat, you identified projects and directed district staff to reduce estimates to bring the total cost of the bond under $100 million. So my purpose tonight is threefold. One, I'll review the planning process that we've engaged in up to this point. I'm going to share the reviewed or the revised cost estimates based on your direction, and we'll have an opportunity to preview bond resolution language as it applies to bond projects as identified by the board retreat on Tuesday. And we have invited Mr. Jim McNeil, who's in the audience tonight, to do that portion of the presentation for us. So I would like to welcome Jim. So just by way of review or background, this graphic shows how we've been approaching the long-term facilities planning process in preparation for a possible November 2017 bond. And we've been doing a couple things simultaneously. In November of last year, we began working with MGT of America on conducting an assessment of all of our facilities. And that was really to serve as a foundation for what we talk about as a long-range facilities master plan. At the same time, the district ran a bond in February. Unfortunately, the bond did not pass. We asked MGT to work with the community and a group that we call the community builders to advise the board on how to proceed with the November 2017 bond. By necessity, and because the filing date for a November bond is August 1st to get on the ballot, we couldn't wait until the long-term facilities master plan was completed. That work, the long-term facilities master plan work with Mr. Clark and the community builders will take up again after we come back from the July holiday. So this slide shows a more detail about how the bond planning process has looked since the spring of 2016. Again, I want to acknowledge the work of the community builders and all of the community members who participated by way of attending input meetings or taking online surveys or taking paper surveys. We absolutely recognize the turnaround between February and November is a short timeline where we're trying to accomplish two major tasks, which is identifying bond projects and long-term facilities master planning. The long-term facilities master planning and the direction that the board has given us around that is absolutely foundational to the work of the district, and we're excited to continue to push that work forward. And I also want to acknowledge the board's engagement and your absolutely comprehensive study and analysis of the information you've been given by MGT and that district staff has provided at your request. So since you received the information from Joe Clark and you've had time to review, we've checked the green box there, and now it is time that we're at the point in the bond planning process where we need to start talking about the resolution. And like I said, my friend Mr. Jim McNeil is here this evening to talk about some draft language with you. I'll invite him up here at the end. And again, these are the bond resolutions based on the projects that you were considering at the Tuesday board retreat. The deadline for approval of the bond resolution would be our July 27th meeting because, again, we have a filing deadline of August 1st. So at the board retreat last week, you directed staff to take the list of projects the board developed and estimate the estimated cost for the projects and try to find a way to reduce the bond cost to bring it up under $100 million. Here are the ways in which we did that. We applied funds allocated by the 2013 bond for Stevens Middle School site improvements to reduce the cost of the Stevens project. That project was not completed because we didn't want to spend money on site improvements if the work was going to be undone by rebuilding or building and redesigning the entire site. So we just didn't want to do something that was going to be immediately undone by rebuilding of the project. So we've held those funds and can apply them to the expenditures for site improvements in this current plan. We've also looked at ways to reduce our estimated project costs through Mark Garrett's excellent work in developing a long-term plan to fund student technology, and by saving money by migrating to the cloud. We will be reducing project budget costs around technology. We will also be shifting some expenditures, things like furniture and curriculum, to our general fund, and we're absolutely confident that we will be able to fund those expenditures. We'll be able to achieve these reductions using these strategies in a way that allows us to maintain quality building standards and utilize dollars efficiently and apply them to the cost of the projects, which would bring us to $99.5 million. As presented, these projects align with the priorities identified by the board at the retreat. The 4 buildings meet the community's top priority, which was identified in the community input events and by the community online survey and paper survey. The community identified overcrowding as its #1 priority. 99% of the estimated project costs are for schools and will increase our student capacity, which meets the core value of our community in addressing overcrowding. Financially, this also keeps us in line for the state match dollars, so it's a fiscally responsible decision as well. And it also allows for some safety improvements to Markham, Angelo, Livingston, Twain, McGee, Frost, Emerson, Chess, Longfellow, Captain Gray, Whittier, and Robinson. The safety and security recommendations came from a comprehensive analysis done a number of years ago, which was a joint project with Randy Nunemaker, local PPD, et cetera, and identifying ways for us to enhance security measures. So focusing on those security improvements would align with that recommendation and allow us to continue that work forward. So these are the next steps. As I said, Mr. John McNeil will speak to Jim McNeil will speak to you briefly regarding the bond resolution. The next item on the agenda is for us tonight to request formal direction to prepare a bond resolution, and then finally we will be presenting you that resolution on July 25th to be filed with Franklin County. And then directly after that, Mr. Roberts will then bring you a recommendation for a formal appointment of a pro-con committee, which has to happen at the meeting on April 8th. So again, August 8th. So again, just really illustrating that we're on kind of a tight timeline to get this turned around and on the ballot for November. At the same time, we'll be continuing the work on the long-term facilities master plan. The community builders will move into phase 2 of their work. The board will receive a draft of that work in December, and we would anticipate formal board adoption of the plan in January. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I would entertain any questions on that portion of it, or I can turn it over to Jim McNeil at this point. I would defer to Amy.
Are there any questions you guys want to defer until after we hear?
Either way, it's fine. I just want to make sure we allow the audience time to comment on any of the reports as well before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So maybe comment now too on.
Let's wait till we're completely done with this report. I apologize. We usually let you comment after each one, and I'm new at this, so forgive me. So let's hear from Mr. McNeil, and then we will go on to questions from the board and then from the audience.
Good evening, Vice President Phillips, members of the board, Superintendent Whitney, members of the public. It's a pleasure to be here. Jim McNeil from Foster Pepper. I'd like to just outline some sample language that, assuming you agree with the approach as far as the projects go, that you can expect to see in a bond election resolution specifically. So with that, the resolution format, as you might remember, is very similar to the form that you approved for the February election. I'd like to just focus our attention just on those Section 2 and then Section 9. Section 2 is a description of the projects, and if you remember, Section 2 provides a little bit more detail because of the word limitations that are contained in the ballot title. In Section 9, we have to more summarize those descriptions in the actual ballot title. So we'll just briefly go through the Section 2 projects. So you can see the description, the construction of the new elementary school 16, the Section 2B, construct a new elementary school 17, C, construct a new middle school to replace Stevens Middle School. D, construct a new middle school, number 4, on site to be determined by the board. And then E is the more generic improvements, identifying the safety improvements that Superintendent Whitney identified. These are have been reduced substantially from the February 14th election resolution specifically. So again, focusing on the safety and security improvements on the security foyers and installing security cameras at the various schools listed there, as well as the new roofs and constructing the transportation office and vehicle maintenance spaces. Any questions on those? Those are the specifics actually, and then item F is the acquisition of land. And those are the specific identified projects to be funded with the bonds, assuming that you desire to go forward. You'll note that item G listed there, as well as H, are somewhat of our generic language used to capture the ability to equip and provide furniture, et cetera, to those new schools being constructed. And then H identifies the incidental costs that you're authorized to use those bond proceeds for, specifically to cover such costs as engineering and architecture, consulting and inspection, permitting, those types of expenses. The next provision in the resolution, and please stop me if you have any questions, happy to answer any questions you might have. As you might remember, we spent a considerable amount of time in discussions the last time when I presented the bond election resolution on the various word limits. And under state law, the ballot proposition is divided into two separate sections or sentences, if you will, and each of them have their own word limitations specifically. The first one, after the word concerning, can be no more than 10 words. And so this particular summary is actually 10 words. We've also tried to shift the focus. I believe in the February election ballot, we had included the improvement of infrastructure first as opposed to safety. And here with the shifting of priority to really more focus on those safety improvements, we've shifted that slightly to relieve overcrowding and to improve safety and infrastructure to place the appropriate emphasis on that aspects of the project. The next part of the ballot proposition has a 75-word limit after the word would. So from authorize all the way down to the resolution that is identified as blank, that can be no more than 75 words. And this particular draft ballot is exactly 75 words. And what we've tried to accomplish, state law requires that you identify the projects, that you identify the maximum principal amount of the bonds, the maximum term of the bonds, and also that you're going to levy excess property taxes to repay those bonds, all is provided in this resolution. And so we've tried to summarize those projects, constructing 2 new elementary schools, and then we've identified, since we know the specific site of the one, including one located in the 4,000 block of Road 84, again, to provide context for the voters, and then construct 2 new middle schools, including one on the existing site to replace Stevens Middle School, again, because we know with specificity where that new middle school will be to replace Stevens Middle School. And then make safety, security, health, and support services improvements and acquire land, then round out the rest of the project descriptions. And then you can see the reference to the maximum principal amount and the resolution number are left blank. I've also assumed a 21-year maximum term, which is, I believe, what is also the same as was submitted in February. So, and I would also just, if you have any questions, after you've had a chance to think about this, please direct them to Howard, and we can get through those comments. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Are there any questions from the board on these presentations? I have a question about how, one of the things that we have heard from our community is they want a very transparent bond. E in section 2 really goes into those things that we really want. Can you speak to how we're going to go about making this very transparent and well known by the communities?
Are you asking a question about the bond resolution?
Uh-huh. Well, I don't even know if it's a bond resolution based, because it's more of,
Yes.
It's more of, in the past, we have these sections under other, and as a community member, I want to know what's under other, and there's many other community members that would also really like to know that information. So how do we go about really advertising that really, really well? Because, we're so limited in the bond language that we put out in the pamphlet for the voters.
Maybe it really is my question.
Yeah, it really is your question.
Darn it, I thought it was Jim's question. Okay. So I think we learned a lot from our informational campaign from February, and we have also heard the same feedback from our community around transparency around the other projects. I think a couple things. One, the other projects are vastly reduced in scopes. There's not as many of them on this particular recommended bond project list. And then again, we've clearly heard from people that it was unclear last time. So we simply will work with Shane Nenger's staff and a couple of other key consultants that we have access to that can help us make sure that we're clear and clean with our communication. So we learned a lot from our February bond.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, I will open it to the public to make any comments or questions on this. Or any of the 4 that we already gave. I'm sorry. So anything that you have to add to our meeting, we would really enjoy.
I'm Krista Peterson, and I have 5 kids at Pasco Schools. Anyways, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come up with a new bond. I was part of the Community Builders Group, and I felt it was such a great experience. It taught me a lot, and I learned a lot about what needs to happen. And I'm just grateful that we're at the point now where we're almost getting to the bond, and now we can start getting excited about it and talking to our friends about it and telling them what's going to be on it. And I'm very excited to be at this point. So, thanks.
My name is Heather Kubalik, and I have students in Pasco School District as well. And I just wanted to say that I'm excited about this bond as well. I like what you have on there. I'm excited to talk to people about it, to promote it, and to hopefully get it passed in November. And I really liked the slide that broke down the prices and showed where you guys were saving, where you're getting money from impact fees and using money left over. And I think that slide is powerful, and if that information can get out there and people can see, okay, we're just not asking for as much money as we can get. We're trying to use the money we already have. We're trying to use creative ways to keep this bond down. That information will help people be more supportive of the whole thing. So thank you very much for all your work with this.
Thank you for both of your comments. It's nice to have some positive feedback from the community. We really appreciate that. We also really appreciate the very forward thinking of the district and the board in how we access information, how we're getting it, how we're with the MGT management group that's come in and really helped us. So I think we're going in a really good direction in connecting to our community. I went to one of those meetings and I was actually quite surprised at the fact that it wasn't, and when you're talking about a bond, it's not just about the families and the school. And there were a lot of people there that were not parents. I think it was like 50-50, and a lot of people from the community. And so I really appreciated the wide scope of people that were brought in for that. I too agree with Dr. Richardson. We need to make sure, I talked to a Kiwana's member, and they tend to be a little bit older, retired group of our community, and they're concerned with this higher rate bond. So I appreciate the fact that we are going to work on getting more of that part of our community in, so that we can hear the voice of those important retired people that are in our community. So, all right. Now the next item is a request for direction on the bond resolution, and Mrs. Whitney will give that.
I want to talk a little bit, or we can, after this, we can. Actually, Mr. Garrett, could you pull up that slide that Ms. Kubalik mentioned that broke down? I wanted to comment on that too, but I agree. I echo Ms. Phillips, Madam Vice President Phillips' comments on. Yeah, that's perfect. This is kind of a long, painful process, but at this point, I'm excited and thrilled. Kind of like Ms. Peterson and Ms. Kubalik mentioned, as we've had tons of meetings, and really like almost my entire year and a half on the board has been geared towards bonds, first towards the February, and which didn't pass, now towards this. So this has been an ongoing process almost the entire time I've been on the board. But I'm thrilled about this. One thing that I've thought a lot about is this term fiscal responsibility, and some people erroneously view fiscal responsibility as equating to not spending money, and that's just not the case at all. A better definition would be wise use of money or resources, something to that effect. And we are in desperate need of facilities. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have as a board and community is to just make sure that people are aware of that. I already have read a letter to the editor a couple weeks ago where someone said, that the school district, they should really look into like having portables in their schools. I was like, what? We have over 230 portables in our district. So there's really this disconnect between people in our community that don't have children in school and those that do. And I think if we're able to help people see the need and how this really affects the experience of our students, the overcrowding and inappropriate access to facilities affects the day-to-day experience of our students and graduation, ability to take certain classes, ability to participate in activities. It's dramatic, and I think the district has done a good job over the years that we kind of almost hide that. Everyone's just we try to be positive as community members, as parents and students, and so people kind of maybe don't grasp that this is like a really important thing. And so I really appreciate how that this is like a perfect slide. I agree as well, because everything's defined. I can defend this and talk about this with someone, and really I think our call is that everyone do that with neighbors and friends, that we talk about the needs that we have for facilities so that people have an awareness of that. We brought in an outside consultant. This is essentially what they proposed. The consultant went to our community and visited over 40 business leaders in our community, and there was no resistance whatsoever to a large bond. I would have supported an even larger bond because I know that our need is that great. I have 4 children in Pasco schools, and the need is just so great. And I drive by multiple housing developments every day, and I about have a heart attack. So this is fantastic. I'm thrilled, excited about this proposal, and look forward to helping answer questions going forward, and looking towards this bond election in November.
So now we'll turn the time over to Mrs. Whitney for direction on the bond resolution.
So this is like the easiest action item ever, because based on the presentation and the discussion we just heard, or you just had and we just heard, we're asking for direction to prepare a bond resolution for the November 2017 bond. The resolution itself will be brought back to you for final approval on July 25th. There is a suggested motion in front of you.
Madam Vice President, I move that a bond of $99.5 million be submitted to Pasco voters for a special election in November 2017 for the following projects: elementary number 16, replacement of Stevens Middle School number 4, elementary number 17, safety improvements, bus maintenance bays, transportation facilities, land for future school sites, building roof replacements, and required fees and costs.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for the bond for $99.5 million to be submitted to Pasco voters for a special election in November 2017. Do I have to read all that? Okay. For the following projects: elementary number 16, replace Stevens Middle School number 4, elementary number 17, safety improvements, bus maintenance bays, transportation facilities, land for future school sites, building roof replacements, and required fees and costs. Can we have a vote? Can we have a roll call? Got it.
Dr. Richardson?
Yes.
Ms. Lanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes. That's exciting. All right. Now we move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is personnel, warrant. Okay. Do I have to say who each one is as well, or just read the consent? Okay. Sorry, I apologize. This is the first for me getting this far. I've started it, so I'll get it. Personnel, warrant approval, approval of Pasco High School C-Wing roof replacement project, approval of portables in 2017 site work, board declaration of surplus property, approval of sidewalk improvement project, overnight student travel, Chiawana High School girls volleyball team camp at WSU in Pullman, Washington, overnight student travel, Chiawana High School wrestling team camp at Graham Kapowson High School in Graham, Washington, overnight student travel, Chiawana High School girls soccer team camp at EWU in Cheney, Washington, approval of curriculum recommendations for social studies, music, and technology.
Madam Vice President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Do we need a roll call? Okay. Can I have a roll call?
Dr. Richardson?
Yes.
Ms. Lanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes. So we'll turn the time over to Ms. Whitney for future agenda items.
We will not meet until July 25th. There is a board retreat listed. The topic, there's a placeholder there for a retreat for some board priorities. The topic is still TBD, but please hold that day. And I would request that you hold it starting at 4 o'clock. During the board meeting, we will have our swearing in of our new student board reps. Mr. Eric Bowles will be in front of the board to present our curriculum review and renewal cycle. And then, as promised, the fifth of 5 outrageous outcome reports. This one focused on extracurricular engagement.
Thank you. And for the, do we have to announce that? Okay. Then the meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for attending.